Why in God's name do I need to fill out past employment when my resume is attached? Not sure if this is the right place for this, but already employed. Just thought I'd post this for some discussion, because this is legitimately stupid, and #X2OOB, genuinely, what the hell and why? You have my resume, which details, in depth, my past work experience, alongside achievements, certifications, etc. Why the hell are you making me fill out that information again? Sometimes it is not just one time, there have been certain employers who made me do it 3 times. And let's not forget that some of them also make you fill out references, even though you already have your references assigned in another document that you attach with your resume. Seriously, are job applications doing this to be as inconvenient as possible to the end user, or are most of these websites just shoddily designed? What is the actual reasoning for wasting my damn time? Software hell, keep on developing until it becomes a Rube Goldberg machine. Sales keeps selling software features, developers keep getting paid to grind out code. You keep taking up the rear. It's because their ATS isn't advanced enough to pass out the experience on your resume. They don't put in the time and money to improve it, because despite how much people complain about it, people will still deal with it and copy and paste it. Then why do they ask for a resume? I'm sure there is truth to this answer, but it doesn't explain the redundancy. What does ATS mean? It is likely that, especially if it is a big company, they get internally audited by an accounting firm, and the reports they get from the auditors haven't mentioned anything about improving ATS. Or, alternatively, the ATS they are using is industry-specific and it'd be a pain to change systems. My brother works as an accountant in commercial, and his company was internally audited, and that's the sort of stuff they check for. Apparently his HR got told that their background checks weren't extensive enough, or just don't apply to jobs and not be a wage slave. Many large companies or HR companies have software that filter out applicants based on keywords and requirements. But even with this being the case, the same words listed on my resume will be copy-pasted into their fields. So it just seems like redundancy for naught. So question then. A lot of times they ask things in a separate box like GPA and skills they aren't required. But am I effectively eliminating myself by not filling it out? The skills I always do, but applying to jobs with 5 years EXP required GPA feels silly. In other words, the answer is to make it easier to trash your application before a person has a chance to view it. And probably miss out on some of the best candidates by doing so. I worked at a company from 97–2000 that did the data entry for corporate recruitment systems. Paper applications in, searchable database out. Company went under in 2000 due to automation, where the system is now requiring applicants to fill in the info. Agreed. I'm also over requiring me to take a 30 to 90 minutes assessment before even an initial interview. After doing so many and never even getting an initial interview, I no longer take the assessments. If a simple application requires it, I withdraw. Not worth my time. I had IBEX contact me telling me I didn't complete their assessment. I replied back saying, I don't take pre-employment assessments. Please respect my time and make a decision based on the merit of my resume. Fuckers. Yep, I had to take an hour assessment to work in a pizza place. Like a part-time job that's only 15 hours a week paying minimum wage. I don't design ATS, but I do sometimes implement them for different companies as a part of my job. There are good ones out there that make the process much easier for applicants. They also cost money. A bad ATS is a cheap ATS. Even if a perfect ATS existed, many businesses would still choose the cheap, crappy one. What are the decent ones that are worth the time to apply? I'll be honest. If a company is using Workday or the ones that make you make an account and fill out all the info, even if it is my dream job, I'll just move on. If it is not, Lever, Greenhouse, Smart Recruit, anyone click and apply ATS. The time invested is just too high to warrant investment. Same here, LMAO. I might be too prideful, but I've never struggled to find a job skipping over those. Woman shrugging. If they have to have a computer sort through resumes, I'm just assuming they get a lot of applications anyways, and I'm not at the point in my career to assume I'm reasonably gonna win out. over 200 others. Bitching about recruitment proxies. Here's a big gripe of mine. Recruiter gets in touch. You talk, have a conversation over the phone, then asks you to apply. No. You called me. Invite me for an informal coffee instead of going through those annoying recruitment processes. Also, especially if it is clear that they're desperate to hire someone. Or, you talk, and it is like everything you just told the recruiter about where you've been, your skills, and what you do not want to do goes in one ear and right out the other. I specifically told them no call centers and no remote jobs, not even temporary. They do not listen. I recently ended up agreeing to an interview through one with a call center and flat out told their interviewer that I was pushed along into that interview, and that the staffing agency they were going with is trying to get them candidates who do not want to work there. I don't play games, life is hard enough. I mean, to be fair, most companies can't hire you unless you apply. The ATS syncs up with the enterprise HR system, so even if they were sure they wanted you and only you, you'd still have to apply for the hiring to occur. It is a systems thing, not just an insistence that you fill out forms for their amusement. I just got a job and had to attach a resume. Fill in my work history as above. Reapply when they gave me the job, so do both again, and they use a separate service for background checks, so I had to fill out my work history in another form. They better be glad it's a pandemic, cause I would have given up if I thought there was anything better out there. Don't try to apply at CVS. Their application asks for work history 3 separate times, and each time you have to add more info. If I remember correctly, they also make you do some bullshit assessment after you do all that nonsense. I expect nothing less from home of the mile-long receipt. Yes, it is ridiculous. As other people have pointed out, some companies use this to automatically process applicants. There's been many times I've decided not to apply for a specific role when I realized I'd need to spend an hour or so filling all my past employment, including past references, only to then maybe get an automated rejection email. Hopefully more people do this, so companies will eventually realize they're losing out on candidates because of outdated practices. The application is a legal document. Lying on it can have legal consequences. I so agree with this. I've gotten to the point where if I get directed to a third-party site like Talio, I just don't apply. Not for me. You can tell more about how a person puts a resume together than some clunky Win95 era clickathon any day. And references? Come on, it may have been okay 15 or 20 years ago, but entirely inappropriate now. What I really dislike is companies are not only requiring the application on Indeed or Snag a Job, but also the one on the main website. I usually like to skip the line and go to the main website to do the job application before Indeed or Snag a Job or etc. Then get told by person on phone, oh, fill this one out here as well. Was there something wrong with the website application? Seriously, pick one, not both. Good gravy. I'm still waiting for a computer programmer who can auto-fill all weird online applications for people. Guaranteed that'll be a seller. Then the job sites would have to actually start doing their job looking at applications. Just don't apply to those jobs. It is a great indicator for a terrible hiring process and as a result, likely a terrible company. I've got no experience working in HR, so I'm taking a stab in the dark here. But I think it is a mixture of several factors. 1. HR thinks it'll weed out people who are lazy. I'm not saying that they're correct in any capacity. Personally, I think it is ridiculous to expect anyone to do menial and unnecessary tasks when their best that 99% of them will get is a rejection email written by a robot in response. But I'm sure you've got the types that think this is a revolutionary and brilliant idea. 2. Have you ever seen these forms try to auto-import the relevant sections of your resume into your employer history? They're absolutely awful at doing so. I've personally seen them replace random combinations of characters with random Unicode symbols, and it will almost always inevitably throw the entire next section in as a part of your last job's description. This isn't done to test your attention to detail or whatever. The parsing technology is legitimately garbage. And someone had the big brain idea of, why should we waste time improving this when we can just make the applicant validate our input instead? Why does this actually matter? Because, point 3. Every company runs your resume through a computer to compare it against the job description. The ability to parse your data and understand what every piece of text on the resume means is integral to this process. HR wants to actually look at as few resumes as possible, so a computer will try to understand, for example, your employment history's titles and dates and automatically reject you if you don't have 3 years of relevant experience. Your work history and your resume are similar but not equivalent. They have some of the same info, but they have different purposes. Work history is a dispassionate record of where you've been, who took you in, what labels you had, and how you left. This record is a starting point for a background check. Looking it over, an investigator may decide which places, times, incidents are most curious for learning how your attitudes were shaped, or if you were at these places at all. A resume is your professional face to the world. Unlike the work history that's just a pile of stats that grows indifferently to your wisdom and attitudes, a resume is how you present your goals, prime skills, and key experiences into a package that employers compare to others. How does Daredevil compare to Batman? They both frighten criminals and skulk around at night. Which you choose may depend on the scope of your project, a set area of the city, or the whole city. A few face-to-face meetings or a long-distance relationship where your agent uses a lot of 3RD party equipment. This is where your resume can help an employer make a choice. I haven't looked for full-time work in some time, but I remember all the interviews where I have to fill out forms detailing my employment history, which is clearly and explicitly stated in my resume. Already, I hated it so much, and it was done on paper. Looking back, I think my best experiences job hunting weren't from these companies that required you to do assessments and fill out a bajillion forms before the interview. Am I the only one that doesn't have my job history on my resume? Because they can. In the good old days it was recruiters and headhunters that did all the hard work and collected a commission. With the advent of central job databases asking applicants to go through a litany of procedures made it easier for HR departments to collect vast numbers of applicants and claim how many they tossed for any multitude of sins: grammar, wrong school, employment gap, etc. With AI and automation it is just getting worse. Andrew Yang was right. It's engineer here. It's processing power. Every resume passed has to use someone's computer somewhere. When a company is getting thousands of applications and thousands of open positions, it can be stressful for their servers. Also, the information is stored into databases for keywords that have to be sorted out very accurately for the software to make use of it, and computers are only so accurate with resumes when there's no official template. Sometimes it can auto-fill an application from a resume, but it's usually not very accurate. With how many applications are submitted, there's a high chance an HR employee ever reads it unless you email it to them directly. I always viewed it as a way to weed out those who are dedicated from those who aren't. If someone truly wants the job, they will do whatever mundane task is asked, and those who are lazy won't. Less people to go through. See, I always viewed it like that as well, but that's awfully sadistic at the same time. There are many people who have to sit through putting in, literally, 30+ applications a week to try and get hired at their dream job. I was one of those people. But thankfully, no longer have to do that, asterisk, knocks on wood, asterisk, and #X200B. All I hear from the employer is dance for me. Monkey. Dance for your job. Quote. I hate the connotation that it's all laziness though. Besides, didn't Rockefeller or some other mighty capitalist say that if you want to find the most efficient way to do a job, put your laziest employer in charge? Besides, it's most likely laziness on their own end, so they can just run a software on it. It's inefficient. Either use a resume or one application form. You guys talk about how swamped you are with applications, and yet you don't even read the resumes. What about the people who are swamped with crappy systems and 90-minute assessments only to never hear from a company again? I know recruiters value their time, but so do potential employees. It is for HR. Less work for them, more work for you. I fill out the most recent job I had and write in, see resume, for whatever else they want. Your resume, CV, is something that has all your information in one printable source. The form you filled out is something that can be easily and quickly parsed. whether by software or manually. If they only have your resume, it would take a substantially longer time to screen candidates. If you only fill out the form, then they won't have something that 1. You created yourself and therefore subject to assessment. 2. See attached resume. Until they say not to post that, and then I stop applying for the job. Yes, see the attached resume, like actually pull it up, because I'm not posting it twice. Like and subscribe for more Reddit content. Watch the next video at the top of your screen.